I'm Kareem. You've been tuning in to Heavy Talk.
My name is Tamiko Hope, and you're tuned into Heavy Talk, a one-on-one conversation series with proven professionals. Today's guest is Karim Lateef from Martell, and we are talking about marketing and branding. Karim Lateef, I'm super happy to have you here today. You are the Senior Manager of Cultural, is that how I say it?
Senior manager of culture.
With me saying that, what does that actually mean? It sounds like a super cool title, but I know your job is anything but laid back.
Yes, I'm actually the senior manager of culture for Pernod Ricard. So Pernod Ricard is the owner, the brand company owner of Martell, Jameson, Avion. Those are three brands I represent,
Okay.
and a bunch of other brands. It's the second largest alcohol beverage company in the world, right behind Diageo. So, in my particular role is very new, and it's just when you talk about manifesting, it's really a role I manifested. It's something that never existed before. It's a title I created.
Because I was like, I want that job,
Yeah, it's really a title I created. And really, I had to give a lot of props to people before me, people before me that helped pave the way for me to create this role at headquarters. But yeah, so, it's a role that allows me to be kind of in the driving seat, along with a team, of course. I have a very strong team to help kind of craft the next generation of cultural marketing for Pernod Ricard, for Jameson, Martell, and Avion. So basically, I manage a leader team that focuses on basically, I would say, every brand has an ambassador program, but what we've done is kind of like taken some learnings from some of the ambassador programs that we've had at Pernod Ricard, but also some of the other programs that exist with other companies. And we created a program that's really like immersive. So basically, we have like what we consider culture managers. And if you look at it on the surface, they will seem like more like brand ambassadors.
Yeah.
So they're basically like our eyes and ears to the streets. They are basically out there creating like cool events. They're connecting to the culture. They're in nine different markets. They're connecting us to the culture. They're filtering through opportunities for us. They're out there creating their own opportunities. They're sharing their narrative of our brands on their social channels, their Instagram, their Twitters, and Snapchat or wherever other platforms they use. And then we couple them with what we call content creators. And content creators are like people like photographers and videographers that just create dope, sticky content for the culture that we use. And then we also have like a sales arm of our team that's like, they're called activation specialists. They're out there basically making sure that our product is in the right places, making sure we're looking good on the menus, making sure we behind the bar, making sure we're just top of mind, inside of the venue, off-premise retail stores, on-premise nightclubs, and things like that. So they all come together to form this ecosystem that we call cultural marketing system. So I manage that system.
How does somebody become an ambassador?
I get this question a lot, and I always tell people, you don't really become an ambassador, like brands find you. So it's not ambassador jobs, at least the ones that I've always been a part of, or managed or been a part of, it's not something you really apply for.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like it's a job application. There are some companies that do this, but like most of the time, if you're doing your thing, building your personal brand, and your brand values kind of align with the bigger brand that wants to partner with you, they're gonna find you through social listening, through their agencies, just going through the internet, going through social media, looking for people that represent the brand, that can personify those brand values, and they'll reach out to you and find you. If you start to just curate your entire lifestyle around being a brand ambassador, then you're not going to be authentic because you don't necessarily know what a brand wants. You know what I'm saying? So it's best for you to focus on your best your best self, and be very firm on your values and your philosophy and your aesthetic and your look. And then so that when a brand finds you, you don't lose yourself in that brand, because contracts are not permanent. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to lose yourself in that brand relationship. So you want to always focus on, building your personal brand. But when you enter into a partnership, figure out where are those mutual touch points where we kind of like share values. Like, is this brand about the community? Is this brand, whatever your values are, making sure your values sit with that particular entity. That makes the best partnerships. So that's how we found our culture managers. We basically seeked out did some social listening, and we kind of found people that we felt represented the brands that we represent for our portfolio.
I want to switch gears just a little bit, and I know you get asked this question a lot as well, but I have come to you before, as have thousands of other people, wanting sponsorship from, your company and one of those brands, with under the umbrella of your company. So, are there any do's or don'ts?
The immediate don'ts, I would say, is don't go into a conversation with a brand gatekeeper, like a brand manager or brand director, whoever it is, without knowing about that brand. The number one mistake that most people make is that they go into a partnership and it's all about me. It's like, what's in it for me? That's the only channel they're on. Like, okay, here's what I can do. My brand is hot. I'm reaching 20,000 people, and I got this guest coming on doing this and that. Okay, but tell me about Martell. It's like Hennessy, or whatever. It's like they have no concept of the brand, and there's no excuses because there's Google, there's Yahoo, there's whatever platform you want to use. You can do a quick 30-minute, Google search. Okay, Martell. Let me find out a little bit about this Martell.
Yeah.
Because then you'll be in a better position to tell me how you see my brand fitting into your ecosystem, into your platform, your world, and not have me do the heavy lifting with that. Because most of the time when you just come to me with your particular platform or whatever you want me to sponsor, and I have to go back and do the heavy lifting. I got to figure out, man, how can I fit within that? Man, how can I don't have time for that. How can I fit within what they're doing? Maybe I could do this, maybe I can't, maybe I won't do that. Like, we want to use less resources as possible. We have a lot of things to focus on. So the easier you can make that for us in terms of laying out the plan. Like, I've done my research. I know this year you guys are focusing on, women empowerment, and I know that you've done this, and that already. I read your CEO did this. Here's what I am working on, and here's how I see what you guys are doing already. Your assets you have can fit within what I'm doing. You see what I'm saying? Like, it becomes a different level of conversation, and we can move it along further.
Right. More about alignment versus, like you said, it's what I want from you, but not what I can offer you. So
yeah,
definitely get that. And then
for many years, I would say this, for many years, like, I'll be honest with you, like, I'm actually writing a book, and one of my chapters is on, like, don't exhaust the plug. And what I mean by that is, like, I really get angry with people that I have worked with that continue to make the same mistake because they get used to just the favor, or they get used to the relationship. So they should be the ones that should honor this ways of working the most. Like, because they know how much frustration you go through, and they know how much, like, late hours you put in trying to make these things work. Or you want to do right by the culture. I know how it feels to be in that seat, to have to go up to a brand person and ask them for a sponsorship. I haven't always been on the corporate side. So I understand that. So I'm a little bit more tolerant than a lot of my peers and colleagues, but that's a burnout role when you take on that mission, when you want to, like, help people that don't make it easy for you to help them.
Because of what you do is so social, you know what I mean? You guys have, you do events like these, elaborate events. I actually worked with Martell through, I was hired by Complex years ago to help with the launch, and it was amazing. So a lot of your events are highly social, you know what I mean? So how have you guys pivoted amid stay-at-home orders, quarantine, and this pandemic?
Well, we try to bring some of those elements of the real world events that we used to enjoy. So, like, we all want to engage. We all want to. You don't want to just sit down and like cool. Like, panels are great, but sometimes some of the most success we've had has been when it's, like, interactive, when people, like, chat, ask questions, when you call them out, shout them out, and things like that. So what we found is that figuring out ways to, like, engage the audience the same way we would engage them if they were at an actual real life party has been, like, the most successful way to go about pivoting in this virtual world. Because people are gonna get as great as the content is, consecutively people are gonna get bored with just listening and being talked to. So that's one thing we've learned, just try to, like, engage people. And also we try to, like, find verticals and passion points that people are interested in. Like, we know Martell is about music. you know, so we try to like align with like events and virtual events that fit the Martell vertical, like you know, music. Art, like Avi only be about art, you know, Jameson's about, you know, neighborhood and community and things like that. So we try to align and stay true to the brand's like core, that and we try to find events and opportunities that fit within those particular, you know, passion points or verticals or shared values.
Okay.
So at least we know by doing that, we have an audience that's already interested, at least in that particular passion point. They share that.
And then you worked with Ludacris, you worked with Quavo, Waka, Jandena, Big Crit, Swally, and many, many more. So I want to actually give you these two quotes, right? And then I want you to tell me what that quote means to you and how it relates to your business or an experience you've had that underlines the quote, okay? I'm gonna like shake it up a little. So a woman by the name of Rebecca Radis said, technology does not run an enterprise, relationships do. Is there a particular experience you've had where you can highlight that quote because you've experienced that?
In general, I think what that says to me, just moving beyond that quote, what that says to me is that relationships are king in general. Like you can't rest on your platform, how great your platform or how great your personal brand or how great your brand tastes, you know, how good you look, you know, how much money you have. At the end of the day, the relationships are what got you, and the relationships are what's going to keep you there. And the relationships, a lot of times, are what's going to propel you to break through whatever that next stage you're trying to get to. So I think a lot of times we get really caught up in like whatever that technology is, whatever that platform that we created, and we rest behind that. We kind of lose a sense of self. We lose a sense of like manners. I deal with this all the time. People that I've known, even in my role now, people I've known that I've helped in whatever capacity get to whatever space they're in right now. I'm not saying I like take all credit, but I contributed. Once they get to a certain point where they reach a certain point of technology status, you know, with their platforms, they tend to forget like who kind of contributed and helped them to get there. They move on to the next. And then when they fumble back and come back and they fall down, they have to reach back out to some of those older relationships. And again, not everybody's tolerant like me. Not everybody's gonna be patient like me. Not everybody's gonna extend that arm again. But I always tell people, don't burn your bridges. Like, don't kill your relationship. Like, keep those front and center at all times. But that's in this industry, that is what got me to the success I'm in right now. It's all about relationships. It's less about what I can do, my capabilities. It's really, I would say 70-30. It's like 70% relationships and 30% me bringing the results, me being a capable person.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
No,
I totally agree. And this quote probably is the kind of the same thing, but I love it, so I'm going to say it anyway. But Richard Branson said, succeeding in business is all about making connections, period.
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 I mean, it really is. Like, it's about making connections, not even just like accumulating relationships, but nurturing those relationships that you get. Like, some people, like, social media has made, even the technology it's really like infiltrated the concept of relationships. You think like accumulating a bunch of followers, like you have, I hate that term too, I talk about that a lot on social media. I have 20,000 followers. So right. you basically get into the mindset of accumulating relationships, but you're not nurturing those relationships. It becomes eventually, when you get so many followers, it becomes a one-way communication where I'm gonna post this, they're gonna like it, and that's that. These people tend to, you know, accumulate relationships, but I found that it's really good to nurture those relationships. I'll tell you, and find ways to truly connect and listen. Like, I'm gonna tell you a quick story. This may be it'll take like 2 minutes, but that was like a big like celebrity I was trying to get like just make connection with back in New York, like almost 10 years ago. He was a big music executive, and I was trying to like really just assume that he would want to talk to me because like I have this experience working in the record industry. I got this big title and things like that. And I was trying to get a lunch meeting, like a one-on-one lunch meeting with him, just to kind of like, you know, pick his brain and kind of figure out how I can get to that next level. Everyone to shoot their shot at this person, like trying to get on, trying to figure it out. And this one guy had done some research and he found out that this person that I was talking about was an art collector. And he found out what art piece that this guy had purchased. And so when he raised his hand, he didn't ask for anything. He just basically told him that he shared an interest with him, that he had that same piece of art that he just bought like last week. And he asked him what he thought about that piece. It was something that was totally different from like what they're normally used to hearing, the pitching and people trying to get with them to like figure out the next opportunity. He touched on more of an emotional connection. Like he built a real connection with that guy, and he ended up getting that one-on-one lunch. You know, I don't know where it ended up, but he ended up getting that one-on-one lunch that everybody in that particular panel sitting in that room was trying to get, because this guy was big time. Like he was really a big, like prominent, figure in the industry. And but yeah, that taught me a valuable lesson. Like it's not about just like accumulating relationships, it's about nurturing relationships. It's about making a real connection, it's about knowing what these people, what their passion points are, where you share those passion points at. So yeah, it was really, really interesting.
No, that's a great story. I in the book, Losses, Victories, that the ebook that I just dropped, I talked about, I worked with Big Boy in 2005, but that came about through a relationship that I built when I worked with Dallas Austin. He had a group, and this particular man that introduced me to Big Boy's camp was their manager. So he saw my hustle and grind, brought me over to Purple Ribbon. And then fast forward to, that was 2005. And then in 2014, when I wanted to reach out to Nipsey to work with him, this same guy was connected to, Nip's camp. So he also got me to work with Nip doing a media run. And this is, all those years later. So, when you make a relationship, you really do have to nurture it, because that can be that person that connects you to that next opportunity. So that's how it is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You don't even need a lot of them. But
no, you don't. You really just need, it's really like the quality over quantity.
There you go.
It's really about that. Like people are losing their sense of, this is common sense. I think everybody knows that, but they're getting caught up in the capitalism of social media.
Yeah.
And they can't lose a sense of their common knowledge. We all know that we can't maintain a relationship with 100,000 people, so, how, without losing a sense of, intimacy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, it's true. That's true. And then back to working with artists and talent. Do you pursue who you want to align with the brand? And if so, like, what's the criteria when you're working with an artist?
I mean, this is a tough one, because it's always a council of people that look for the artists we want to work with. So we are at different levels. You have the big level artists like the Quavo, like with Martell, and that's like a huge. That's probably about 10 people weighing in on that decision. And then you have more of the micro level artists that we work with, like more of on a smaller scale, with like project by project or event by event, or maybe it's just a gifting moment. We gift them for their birthday. We just create a relationship, and that's something where it becomes like less of a risk. So that's something that I may make a decision on my own. Me and my colleagues, one or two of my colleagues, may make that decision. But it's always the more higher profile the artist is, the more people have to weigh in, because it's a bigger risk if that person does something crazy. It's a bigger risk for that brand to have to do damage control. So that's when you start getting to a lot more conversations with senior leadership and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's and it's the same way too with the artist. We usually try to look for ways for that artist to kind of pull through our message. Because in marketing, you have two different concepts. You have like push and pull. So we can push. Pushing is just like the billboards and the advertising and all of that. Eventually, consumers tune out on that. They have ad blockers. The algorithm won't allow you to keep pushing messages like that. So you have to find a more creative, unique way to still reach the same audience, but not be so pushy. And that's when you use the celebrities to carry that message, and that's the pull strategy. So we always try to find people, if you're gonna do that, find people that really personify values, personify the brand messaging. So then when you look at that person, you see a Jameson, or you see Martell, you can easily look in your mind and say, oh, that makes sense. I get why they made that decision. Okay, cool. And without even putting Jameson and Martell in your face, you start to live some of those values, and you see them living it. You see them like drinking the product, and you naturally start to become influenced. When you're not being pushed, you're being pulled into that world. So that's kind of like the approach that we normally take.
Yeah, yeah. Is there a campaign that pops in your head that you think was a perfect alignment between a brand and an artist?
A brand and an artist?
Mm-hmm. Where it was seamless. Like you said, where you could really see the artist in the brand or the influencer.
I mean, I would say that my best and probably one of the few examples I could say is Ciroc and Diddy. Even though he's not an artist, he's more of a, mogul.
Yeah.
But he really personified that Ciroc lifestyle that they were trying to capture. He did it the best. He lived it. So even though people knew, okay, this man is obviously capitalizing off of, he is getting, he is an owner, or whatever the ambiguity was that people was facing during that time. They didn't know if he was an owner, he was like an endorser, but he really was an owner and endorser. I worked with him at that time, but he lived out the values. So you could, he didn't even have to he didn't have to even have Ciroc all the time. You just knew it, like that's the Ciroc guy, and that's the point. And there's a lot, I would say it's probably like 99% of the artist brand relationships are not authentic. Like they're not gonna give you that same level of success that you got from Diddy and Ciroc. Like I can't tell you another one, to be honest with you. It's hard. I'm scratching my head. It's kind of hard.
Right. Right. It's just Ciroc is synonymous with Diddy, and Diddy is synonymous with Ciroc. It's like there's no separation in the two. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there would ever be another situation like that where there's that much synergy.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right.
I haven't seen it. I think there's been some successful campaigns, like maybe some of the brands get what they want out of it in terms of getting the reach and impressions, but making that serious, deep connection, that intimate connection where it's hard to even blur the line. Like when you get to the point where you don't even know if that person is working or playing, like the line is so blurred.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's really hard.
Yeah. Nah, I agree. That was a good one. So I know that you're active on social media, Karim, and you post a lot of great motivational and inspiring content. And I'm mainly referring to the personal quotes that I think, I was going to say turn into a book, but you're actually working on that right now. So I'm happy to hear that. But what are some keys to achieving success from your point of view on social media that have worked for you?
Being vulnerable. I think that people I hate when people are too perfect on social media because I know that's not real. Because it's kind of hard for me to fake. And I think that's what's gotten me so far in the industry, that people know when they talk to me, I'm gonna give them a real answer. They ask me about, like in the boardrooms, when they ask me a question about a campaign, I'm gonna give them a real answer. So you're rarely gonna see anything go out the door of a brand I work on, like KFC situation, like they just had with the fist and the chicken wing, or Gucci or whatever. You're never gonna see that with a brand I work on, as long as they keep me included in the conversation, because I'm always gonna be honest. So I'm just as honest as I am in corporate as I am in culture. So I think that is the biggest thing for me: being honest, being vulnerable. Because even like I know I'm rambling a little bit, but even you look at some of the most successful artists, like the Drakes, Tupac, like Jay-Z, Nas. One of the things they all have in common, DMX, from every generation, one of the things they have in common, they're all vulnerable. When you listen to their music, they're talking about pain. They're talking about celebrating too. They're very honest about like things that bother them, their fears and issues they're going through, things like that. And that's what make them like so timeless and make you like really attracted to them. You're rarely gonna see an artist that's like super popular, that's like positive all the time and not sharing any real stuff. They're not gonna be timeless. They're not gonna connect to the most people. You look at the J. Cole's, the Kendrick Lamar's, like they have pain and they have pleasure. They jump in head first and they're very vulnerable. And that's kind of like what I try to do with my social media. When you look at it, I want you to see yourself in it, whether you have the courage or not to be able to like articulate some of the things I'm talking about. I'll do that for you. I'll put myself up there on Front Street just for the people. So that's kind of like my biggest thing, just being vulnerable, honest, and sharing information. I want to share information that people can use and transform their life. Like, I'm not into like hoarding information, because I want to be known as a person that like really truly pushed the culture forward, not a culture vulture. So I don't care if I really benefit from it when I share this information, because it's like, it's not, I don't own the information. Information is information. It owns itself. Like, I don't own it. I'm just transferring it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I use social media.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that, a lot of times, like you were saying, people post, but they rarely give anything. It's all like me, see me, I'm here, I'm doing this, which is great because it can be, aspirational and motivational, but at the same time, I want to learn something too. Like, what are you thinking? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Really going on, you know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
Yeah.
I want you to be very clear on who I am. Like, I don't want no ambiguity. I don't want any confusion. Like, when you look at Karim Lateef, like, I want you to know exactly who I am.
Right.
So I don't, like, I forgot, I don't know the exact quotes. It's not verbatim, but I just can't like imagine a person that walks outside their door and have to put on a mask every day and come back home and take the mask off and go to sleep comfortably. Like, I can't even like imagine that.
Yeah. So talk to me about a business opportunity, Karim, that you almost missed based on fear. And if you had that experience, how did you overcome it? Or what did you learn?
I missed an opportunity to work overseas. I've always like wanted to work in Paris or work in Africa, one of the countries in Africa that one of our brands are represented in. And I missed a great opportunity because of fear, because I went the safety route. Like, I had an opportunity to work. I'm not going to say which company, but I had an opportunity to work for a brand, and this person was like going to go on like maternity leave, and she was offering me the opportunity to come in and work in her role. And it would potentially have led to a bigger opportunity. But I took another opportunity that was safe, that was continental, that was here in the States. And yeah, I mean, I would have had the opportunity. You probably been talking to me right now from Paris. You know what I'm saying? If I had taken that, that's something I've always wanted. So that's like a corporate opportunity, a business opportunity. I mean, I've had so many opportunities as an entrepreneur. Like, I know we're talking a lot about me as a corporate executive, but in between my life, in between jobs, and even before the job, I was an entrepreneur. So I had opportunities to I have a documentary I was shooting before I started working in the liquor industry on street musicians. And I basically sabotaged it. Like, I got so far into the project and I ended up just like, I didn't get it done. I think I had the fear of success. It had a lot of momentum. I started to like avoid calls and conversations. I don't even know why, but like, I started to fear actually getting this project done, and it turned into this big moment that I've always wanted it. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that's rare for me, but that's one regret I do have.
Yeah.
Because, my life would have probably been significantly different now than if I had to follow through with it. But yeah.
Yeah. So even for somebody, because I always try to talk to my younger self, you know what I mean? When I think about the next generation coming up, I'm like, what would I want if I could go back to their age at say 23? Like, what would I want them to know? And so that's what I always, kind of come from that position. You know what I mean? And I write about that experience too. I quit. I tried out for the Atlanta Falcon cheerleaders because I was dancing all my life, and toured and competed, and I made it through the second round. It was 3 rounds, and when I got cut on that last round, I didn't know how to handle it, Karim, so I just quit altogether. And I was only 19, and in my head, I felt like I was too old, like I'm not good enough. Like, it just pierced me, and I didn't, because I'd never really failed before. It's something that I really was passionate about, and I didn't know how to handle it. So when I talk to younger people, just like the story you just gave about having that opportunity to have finished the documentary, don't know where your life would have been at this point. But, you know, you don't want to have those regrets, you know? So if you can help it.
Definitely not.
Not based on.
The biggest thing with being young, I'm sure you can relate to this too, is that you feel like you always have tomorrow. Like, you know, I can get to this next year. I can do this later. Like, it's not the same level of urgency. Sometimes with certain things it is, but other things is like you feel like you have that, you know, cushion because you're young.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is. And then you wake up and it's like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you?
Yeah.
You know, where's my life? Yeah.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah, it definitely is. But the thing is, like, the older you get, the more safer you are. It's just natural. The older you get, the less risk taker you become. Like,
well, because you have all these experiences now, and that whole ignorance bliss is the truth. Like, when you don't know, it's like you just be out there. But then once you know, it's like, it's the best. That's the key. Like, do it while you're young, while you don't have that. You have to. All the bags of, you know, failure or whatever to keep holding you down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Man, that was my biggest lesson. If I tell a young person, oh my God. Wow. I'll tell everybody that. Right. Do it.
Yes, do it. So being in PR, I've found ways to make it my own by injecting, you know, my own personality and flair into my job, and mainly using my love of words and storytelling. So in what ways have you infused your own passions and interests to remain engaged in the work that you do?
I'm an artist, so I try as much as, again, going back to the younger person, you know, I wanted to go to college to be an artist. And my dad taught me into going into being being a businessman. But now I'm that older guy trying to reconnect to my creative years, my artist years. So I try to incorporate art into everything that I do, from the aesthetic. The one thing I learned from like everything from like PR to traditional marketing, everything, image is everything. Like, if you can create the right image, the right look and feel, if you understand like sound, you understand like color psychology and just all these different things, you know, you can really tell your story visually or aesthetically. Sometimes you have to say any words. Like, if you look at luxury brands, like a Hermes, for example, you look at that orange, you look at different colors they use, you know it's Hermes. Like, they figured out the cheat code to communicate aesthetically. So that's kind of how I use art. I try to like use art to tell my stories. Like, art becomes my PR. So like my work, I try to let my artistic ability precede me. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I answered your question, but that's kind of how I do. Like, I'm not really, to be honest with you, I am terrible at PR for myself. So I am great at like marketing another person, marketing a brand, marketing a concept for someone else. But the humility, my struggle is my humility. So it's hard for me sometimes to discern between like promoting myself and being cocky. That's like my biggest struggle. So like, I try to find other ways to subtly promote myself. And so my work becomes my PR, my like the way I tell my stories on Instagram, and you know, the way I leave impressions on people. Yeah. With hopes that they will start to share conversations about me. Oh man, it was cool when I came to the Martell home. Like, that was amazing. Like, dang, Karim really like his team really pulled that together. Like, they become my mouthpiece. They become my like public relations team because I'm not doing it for myself. If that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. And I'm late to the party, but I just started watching The Last Dance. You know, the Michael Jordan doc. Oh my God, because I'm not really a sports person, but Jason told me, you know, you should watch it, and so, or suggested that I watch it. And one of the things that Michael Jordan said when he was talking about the Nike deal, I don't know if you have seen it or if
I saw it. Yep.
If you remember this part where he basically was saying that he wouldn't have had any endorsement had it not been basically for the way he played the game. So his game became his PR, basically. That's what got him the endorsement deal. So there's definitely some value in what you said. You know, letting our work speak for ourselves. There'll always be opportunity if you become the best at what you do and, have that reputation.
The best example of that, I talk about this all the time to like my family, to people like my younger brothers and cousins I'm mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
The best person that does this is Jay-Z. Like Jay-Z, he never talks about he talks about like the money he's made and things like that. But like he never talks about all these like political moves he's doing and things like that. You always hear about it secondhand. You hear about it on whatever newswire, whatever like blog or and I'm on LinkedIn. Just today I saw an article with him like donating to, this investing in this company, this black woman owned company. So he's doing all these things behind the scene, but he's never coming out like, look at me, got a PR person, like he's not speaking in front of the camera. It's always like this surround sound around him that obviously he's orbiting in the center of the sound around him, but he's not like in the forefront. So I'm big into like military science. There's a concept between like soft power and hard power. He uses like soft power, like this influence of, the work and what he's doing and his artistry and, his integrity and personality and things like that to draw attention to him versus like, look at me, look at me, look at me. Like and there's so many other artists I can name that do that, but yeah.
Yeah. But it's kind of a catch-22 though, if you think about it, because these days you have to be visible on social media. You have to let people know what you do. You have to, depending on, I guess, what your goal is, if you have a product or a talent that you're trying to get out there, you have to let people know about it. But I think you get to a level where you are able to fall back a little bit and let all that you've, done and accomplished become your mouthpiece. I'm trying to figure that out too, because like you, I don't really like to, it's hard for me to ask people, hey, check out my book, or hey, hit that link, because I like to, I want people to come to me, but at the same time, everybody doesn't know who you are, and what you do and what you accomplish. So it's like, my brother told me McDonald's, as many people that know about those golden arches, they continuously have radio commercials and TV commercials, and you know what I mean? Like they got to promote because there's somebody that doesn't know.
Yeah, I created my company, Craft Brand Theory, for that particular purpose of really like you're my target, for example. Like I tried with Craft Brand Theory is to kind of take some of the tools, some of the learnings and lessons that I've developed over the years of building these big brands, or even like small brands that become like bigger brands that started off small, like a Ciroc, but taking some of those like concepts and applying them to like lesser known people that are amazingly talented, are brands that are amazingly quality brands, but they're not like big on PR. They're not big on celebrating themselves or pushing them, so they want to get the work done. So like Craft Brand Theory is about like helping to close that gap, to help people, create a platform for people to reach that next level of visibility and marketing. So that's kind of like my strategy over the next 10 years. I'm refocusing. You'll see a lot. I'm focused a lot heavier on that.
That's what's up. Well, I look forward to that in the book. So I only have a couple more questions, and we'll close out. But what has this global reset taught you about yourself, and what lessons have you learned that you think, or maybe relearned, that you'll carry with you into the next season of your life or throughout your entire life?
It just reinforced some things. I mean, some things that didn't really teach me, it just reinforced some things I already knew. Like it reinforced what I mentioned earlier about quality over quantity. When you're in this quarantine and you social distancing, you constantly like the people you're around and things like that, you really start to like notice your bonds with people. You start to like think about people you haven't checked in with. So you really start to assess your relationships, and you really start to see, wow, like who am I there? Who's there for me, and who have I been there for? Things like that. And it brings me back to like, I think Kareem Biggs is that he's like, the only people you should be getting even with, the only people that you should be getting even with is the people that help you get to where you are. So it kind of made me think about that. Like, man, I need to check in with my parents a lot more. I need to check in with, my family. I need to check in with my brothers. I need to check in with this person. So like that person. So you know, that's one thing it helped me figure out. But also, it really made me like think that sometimes you have great ideas and you gotta like stop negative talking. You start talking yourself out of things and do it. There's so many things I wanted to do that would have been so relevant during this time of quarantine, but like I talked myself out of it because maybe I was a little bit too early thinking about it, you know, thinking about the concept or thinking about this solution. But right now, if I had done it, I would have been in a much better position, you know, than I am now. But sometimes you can have a great idea if you're too early to the game.
Yeah.
And you share it with that one or two people and they might like throw some negative shade on it. You might second guess yourself and like pause. And then next thing you know, it's like, it's too late or, you know, you missed that opportunity.
Yeah. Or somebody else
I
did.
feel like sometimes great ideas, they're currency, their energy. So they just like transfer to somebody else and they do it.
Absolutely.
If you don't catch it.
And that's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those two things, I just felt like it taught me quality over quantity and nurturing relationships. It taught me to act. When I get inspiration from God, when I find this idea, like move. Like just move.
Just go. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Last two questions. What does culture mean to you?
Culture is life. To me, culture is life. Like culture is everything. Like culture is what we drink, how we eat, how we talk, is our language, is what we wear, is what we cry about, what we're happy about, what we smile about. Like culture is oxygen. It really is. Like we breathe it every day. We live it. And when you detach from the culture, you feel dead. You feel dead inside. Like if you have no culture, you're basically dead. Like if you I think that culture is very like, it's very natural. Like, you know, when you're in the right place, when you hear that song or you around the right people, like, you know, like, wow, like this is my culture. This is how I fit in here. Like, it's a very energetic, beautiful feeling. It's a vibration.
Yeah. Yeah. It's everything, right?
It's everything.
Culture, yeah. Which is why I thought it was super dope. You guys connected with Quavo, of course, who's part of Migos, and then their project culture, you know what I mean? Thought it was a really dope, you know, brand alignment.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And my last question. So you grew up in Selma, Alabama, and of course, we just lost civil rights leader and activist, Representative John Lewis, who led the first of 3 Selma to Montgomery marches across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where he and other peaceful protesters, of course, were brutally attacked by state troopers and police. And that was in 1965, which obviously really mirrors current times, you know, what we're going through. So my question is, last question, as a Black man in America working for an international company, how do you balance your personal feelings with doing business as usual? And then also, you know, what ways have you been keeping your spirits up and your mind sane amidst what's going on, both from, you know, a racially turbulent time and then also a, you know, global pandemic?
I mean, I'm still figuring it out, to be honest with you, because it's in real time. Because I'm still figuring, because it's still happening.
Yeah.
But I think that a couple of things that I've been able to do is, again, I mentioned early in the interview that I'm a very honest person. So I try to be very honest with my team, my manager, about how I'm feeling. You know, like, hey, you know, we might need a break on this. Like, this person, I mean, I'm kind of feeling, I'm feeling the weight of, you know, of all this is happening. I might need a little bit extension on this deadline. There's a lot. You know, it's something that's I'm dealing with right now emotionally. So just being honest, and I will say that Pernod Ricard has been very receptive to this. They've been very like, you know, patient and just tolerant of the healing that needs to be done by, you know, the employees of color, like African Americans that work in the company. So, you know, they've been listening, you know, so I will say, like, it was a little bit easy to kind of have some of those conversations. And then also, this is the time now to speak up, because now every company, every person is being held accountable. Not even just companies, celebrities, everybody's being held accountable for what they do.
Yeah.
Their microaggressions, like their, you know, maybe it's not intentional racism, but it's like,
micro racism.
Yeah, micro racism, little things they do out of privilege that they didn't realize that they were doing that hurt people. Now is the time to speak up on it. Everybody's been held accountable. So it's been I'll be honest, it's been a little bit easier. Not that I didn't shy away from before, but it's been a little bit easier now to have those conversations at mass, because now other employees, people outside the industry, people within the culture, everybody's speaking up and saying the same things. All of our voices are being lifted up. So it's really, it's really a little bit easier now to collectively heal and repair. But to be honest, me being born in Selma, I've always been this way. I've always spoken up on things, whether it be like in high school. I'm Muslim and I'm Christian, so it was like, I've always had this unique background. Yeah. So like, I've always like spoken up on things that I felt weren't right. Right. So I carried that into corporate America before Pernod Ricard. When I was at Diageo, even before that, every other job I've had, I've always been very vocal. That's helped me with the healing, just being vocal.
Right. Okay. And then I guess last question, favorite book. That was really my last question, but I want to know, because you're a reader, any book that, again, our heavy crew is made up of emerging artists and talent and creatives. So has there been one that has impacted your life that you think would be a great suggestion for our crew to read?
I have so many books. Like, it's hard for me to say. Can I give you a couple of them?
Sure.
I like this book called The Way of the Owl. I stumbled across that book. It's called The Way of the Owl. I like the autobiography of Malcolm X. I like The Tipping Point.
Gladwell.
Yeah, pretty much I like all of Malcolm Gladwell's books. Okay. He hasn't lost yet in terms of, and I would say those are the ones that kind of stick out to me right now. Okay. I'm looking at my shelf now. But yeah, those are the ones that kind of, there's this new book I'm reading now. It's called The Warhol Economy. That book is dope.
Okay. Warhol is an Andy Warhol?
Yeah, as an Andy Warhol, The Warhol Economy.
Dope. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Karim, for your time and your insight. Like, I learned a lot. And I hope our heavy crew will too, which I know they will, because you gave a lot of great, honest, responses. And, people can't do anything but accept the truth. You know what I mean? When you tell like it is, people have no choice but to accept it. So I appreciate you being open and transparent. And I wish you nothing but the best as always. It's
my pleasure, man. It was an honor for even to consider me for this podcast. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. For real. Thank you so much for everything you're doing, and good luck with your book. I'm definitely gonna spread the word. You'll see me post it tonight on my stories. But yeah, more success, more love, more blessings to you and your heavy team. Thank you. Thank you. Blessings.
For tuning into another Heavy Talk. Please be sure to comment and subscribe below. Also, please follow us on all social media platforms at Heavy Sound, and be on the lookout for more episodes coming soon.